Hello everyone, welcome to another tutorial on retopologizing, and here I'm going to retopologize the entire body. Okay, and because I have garments on the outside, I actually have pushed the body, so the body shape is somehow a little bit disfigured on the hip part, but I don't really care. I also squeezed the breasts in just to make my garment looks more tight over here. So but anyway, I'm gonna retopologize this model. So let's start with the head. We're not gonna do that in ZBrush, so I'm gonna decimate it first. So let me go for a Z plugin decimation master. It's gonna be over here, right? Z plugin decimation master, and then pre-process current to pre-process it. Depending on how dense your model is, it's gonna take a few minutes if it's really heavy. It's also depending on how fast your machine is, but you just have to be patient. Even when ZBrush stops responding, you can still wait for it. It will come back sooner or later, so just be patient and wait for the processing to finish. It's gonna first go through all the vertices, and then we'll do some reordering. I don't know what that is, but just some calculations, and then it writes to the disk. When it's done, you can then go change the decimation amount. You can change that to 10%. That's always what I do. So your poly count will be dropped from 3 million to 10 times smaller. So let's see that. Decimate current, and that's instant. You see now my values are dropped down to 1 lesser 0, right? So I can then use this model to retopologize in Maya. I'm gonna export it. Oh, before I do that, making sure I don't have a weird result. Oftentimes it's all okay, and also you want to uncheck group if you want them to be all combined together, which because they are one group, so that shouldn't be a problem. But just to be safe, uncheck group underneath export before doing export. Okay, let me export it as the body model. Alright, now switch back to Maya. Let me import that body model. And it's gonna be like this. Now because I sculpted from a ball, it's a sphere shape, so that's why it's at the head is at the origin. That's where I started. I want to bring it up, so to do that, I also want to remember the deformations. So let me Ctrl G to group it and drag that group up and scale it up. You turn off the snap scale. To get a proper size, I can use a cube and tap in 200 on the scale. If you're using Maya's default units, it's like centimeters, so a person's height is about around 200 centimeters, if not much, if not all the way to, but inside of that range, so I can make it like 180 or so. So that's the body size. I'm scaling and moving the group, so that way the group remembers the values. I can always go zero out translation and put in once in scale to bring my stuff back. Alright, then I can delete my cube and start doing my retopologizing. Okay, grab the model and then make it live, and then I can holding down shift and right mouse button, go to quad draw 2. I can start with anywhere on the head. My recommendation will be start from the eye. I actually don't have a particular reason for that. I just think the eye is important, so I start with the eye. Okay, so you can then start drawing out the topology by using Quadro 2, holding just click and drag to create vertices, holding down shift to fill it in, or you can holding down tab button and drag the edge to extrude it if that's more convenient to you. Okay. So here, what you really want to be careful about is, does the topology you end up with decent, good enough for the deformation or rigging? Now there are multiple aspects you can think about. The first is, of course, the direction of the loops. Does that helps the deformation, meaning that the eyelid are supposed to be able to open and close, and your loop should be perpendicular to that direction, so that way it can be bended in that direction with ease. Another thing is, of course, is the topology really helping you to define the shape, because you can draw any kind of vertices, they will all be snapped on the surface of the model, because that's how this retopologizing tool works. But the problem is that they really represent the shape is it's not the same thing as they are on the geometry. So oftentimes you want to tweak the position of those vertices specifically to a proper position, so that when you smooth preview it, it does looks like the shape you're doing. Let me have one more edge here because I want it to be sharper over here. Yes, so the distribution of the edges also defines how sharp the turning you are defining. So here I want it to be sharper, so that's why I have that there. Now one thing you want to be really conservative about is the poly count, especially when you're doing game model. You don't want it to be super dense. You only want the place to be denser when you need more changes of the shape. For example, the corner of the eye, I probably will end up with one more here, just to define where the end is, where the contour looks like. So I end up with more edges over there and lesser in the middle because they are pretty fluid. Okay. One thing I forget to do is turn on symmetry. We can of course do that by grab the model and then do a we can do a mirror here to mirror it to the other side and delete the history. And then when we were doing the quad draw 2, in the settings we should be able to turn on symmetry somewhere. No, not here. Maybe we can go to the 2 settings, the modeling 2 side, and then we can turn on symmetry here. Or if you turn on any symmetry of any tools, that symmetry should be on over there anyways. So let's go to quad draw 2 again, and then we can start drawing new ones, and you notice that the other side will be updated, which is pretty cool here. Okay, so let me connect them to the middle. You need one more line here. So for the loop of the eye, I'm thinking I need maybe more loops than just one loop, because let me add in one more loop here by holding down Control and click. By the way, the shortcut here can be revealed by going all the way down to the modeling toolkit, go all the way to the bottom. You have this keyboard mouse shortcuts. You have all those things here. Okay, that you can see what what combination of keys can do. Let me just have one more loop. I have a double eyelid. I'm intending to have that in the represented by my topology, so I'm going to do that. Now some people may argue that kind of thing can be represented by using normal map, but I don't quite like that, because when you actually make some deformation like open or close the eye, the normal map will be stretched, and you can control how things changes in a way that you want it to be in a realistic way. Like when you open the mouth, that double eyelid should actually go away, right? Because they're being opened. So you cannot do that using normal map. So that's why it's, if you can use the topology to do the shape you're doing, use topology instead of normal map. It's always a good idea. Okay. Alright, and we have one more loop here and one more there, just to fill in the middle part of the nose. For the nose, because I know that this contour here is sharper, so I may choose to have two loops here at least to define that shape, so that shape will end up with a sharper result. I can of course do that later too if I want it, but I can do that now if I wanted to too. Okay, so let me keep going from there to create the top part of the eyebrow. Okay, let's keep going up. And I think I need one more loop to round to the eyebrow, because that's how the shape flows over there. Again, everything in rigging, in topologizing, is serving two of those purposes. One is the shape you're getting. Another one is the deformation. So I would say that the most important thing is the deformation. So even the shape is not, even the edge loop does not go all the way towards the shape you're building. You can still get decent shape, but the main focus here though should be what kind of deformation you end up with. So here I may choose to make it go that way because I want a sharper result using this loop. So you can always refine the direction of the loop in whatever way you want. Okay. Now one thing you may notice is the pole you're getting around the loops. So I personally like this pole to be here because that's how the shape changes, right? So those ones in the middle are the eyebrow. You see the direction of the loops are going that way from eyebrow to the side of the nose. Okay, that's when that changes here. So when you reaches here, you becomes the other part, the T-zone of the head. So the position of that vertex is defining that, at least in my topology. And so they go all the way down. The other pole here at the bottom will not be here. Will not be here as some modeler suggests to keep the vertices on the same loop, because that doesn't make any sense here. This should be somewhere here. The shape flows like this instead. So those loops are going this way, going downwards. The other loop are going in. I know this is a little bit shape driven, but I don't see any problem with that. I mean, you can still swap things out if you wanted to. I just need to have them at the same loop anyways. Then anyway, let me keep going from there. So here it goes that way and keep going. Now here I may wanted to figure out the outside here. Actually, let me just keep that one simple so it doesn't do anything crazy. So what happens on the other side of the eye? Well, here you may choose to find a proper time to redirect the loop so that they have poles and they will change from circular loop like this to things on the outside like that. So when do you choose to do that doesn't really, I don't think they really matter that much as long as you have enough loops around the eyelid. But they do affect how the edge loop will happen on the outside. The more you loop them around, the lesser edge loop will be on the side of the face. Okay, so here I think I may choose to do it maybe right here. So it's going to be changing to other loops. So if I do it there, the top one will also be happening on the same loop. So it will be happening over here. So if you wanted to do it this way, again, it's based on when do you want the loop to start turning. I don't really like that result, so maybe I want it to be happening one loop further than that. So it's happening there. I can make it also happening here too. So you sometimes you may want to just keep the pole on the same loop if possible, if that's reasonable, right? Because that's simpler. That way my two poles here, this one and the other one, are on the same loop now. Now to change the direction of the loop, you just to change the location of that pole, you just need to make one more loop to push it out one more loop. So you have one more loop here, and do the same thing at the top. So you're pushing one more loop out if intended, so that the pole happens here now. So is it better to happen here or there? I mean, that's something I don't really try to have a theory on it, as long as I have enough loop. So now they're on this loop instead of that. The results, of course, yeah, like what I mentioned before, it will affect how much loop you ends up on the outside. So you may want to, you know, try to manage the poly count. How much do you want on the inside? How much do you want on the outside? So what I want to have is, I want them to be transferring earlier over here. So this is the result I'm looking for. Oh yes, you can holding down shift to smooth the geometry, which is a very nice feature here. You can tweak them in whatever way you want. Let me just finish this one more loop and we're done with the eye area, and then we can move on maybe in the next tutorial for the nose. Okay, so see you next time.